I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on GBN, we're diving into a powerful book, a wonderful book, a book that is a real page turner. It is called The Fortress, the first Jake Goldman novel. It is written by a terrific author by the name of Dan Limesand. It is a suspense filled story that blends love, danger, and relentless determination. Set against the unforgiving Mojave Desert, Jake Goldman wakes up from an accident only to discover he's trapped in a secretive experimental project for a crime he did not commit. With love, survival, and freedom on the line, this gripping thriller will leave readers turning the pages late into the night. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him on TV today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Dan, great to see you here today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
I was driving through the Mojave Desert one time with my daughter doing a cross-country trip, and the air conditioner on her car stopped working. And she turns to me and says, "Dad, do you know what the temperature is?" And she's looking at her phone. 118 degrees. It is a brutal environment. And fortunately, perhaps an act of God, our AC came back on our car. But this is such a great setting for your novel because it seems so intense. Tell us a little bit about your motivation to choose this location.
So I grew up in the Mojave Desert, so
Wow.
I'm very familiar with it. I was there between ages 6 and 20.
Mhm.
And you know what most kids do out in the middle of the desert, they explore, right? So I had a chance to see many parts, and parts you probably wouldn't want to even be in. And yes, it gets really hot. It's even hotter now than it was when I was there. And I say, why did my parents ever go there? How do people survive? It's funny. I take my wife there now, and she said, this is just such an interesting phenomenon that people actually end up here and live here. And I grew up in a small little mining town in the Mojave Desert, and my dad worked there, retired from there. I worked there for a couple of years before I went to college, but that familiarity, it was just a perfect setting for this secretive prison because there's plenty of places in this vast Mojave Desert that you could tuck a prison like this concept away. And you know, they wanted to keep under wraps. It's certainly better to do it there than in a big city. And there's a whole story around why it isn't the big city and what prompted me to put it in the Mojave Desert, if you want me to talk a bit about that too.
Well, you've done the hard work. You've done the heavy lifting. You created the story, the book, the characters, the locales, the settings, the themes, the conflicts, and you've put the book out there. You've produced it. So getting that book in the right person's hands and a synopsis with it would be a great start. So Hollywood, if you're listening, here's a book that's ready to go. It would be a terrific film, no doubt. But I do think just getting that book and that work out into the universe is a big step one, without a doubt. Give the folks at home a little bit of an overview of the story.
Sure. So let me just start with a fact. So the US represents 4% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's incarcerated population.
Wow.
So this powerful US senator, he had hopes for a future presidential bid. He's approached by this also very ambitious CEO of a company called Septec. It's a security and defense firm, lots of government contracts, does things all over the world. He has this project, this idea of building an experimental prison, a co-ed prison, something that he hoped would revolutionize how incarcerated individuals are managed. And so this senator came around, partnered with them, and they went forward with this project. And they tried, you know, they considered putting it in a city, but of course, if you're familiar with NIMBYism, not in my backyard, well, that was certainly at play. And so they came up with the Mojave Desert, and for all the reasons that I mentioned beforehand, could easily tuck it away, keep it secret until proof of concept, right?
Right.
So then there's Jake Goldman, early 20s, sort of coasting through life. just brimming with potential on so many levels. He gets into this accident, and unfortunately, there are some people that are killed, and he's not even really fully responsible for this, but he ends up in this experimental prison. And when Jake gets there, he realizes this is not a normal place. These are not normal rules. Anything that he's ever heard of beforehand, it's not this place. He's not even able to go by his name. He's just a number. And he certainly was not expected in this co-ed prison to find somebody to love, but he does. So turn the clock forward. I won't go into all of all the ups and downs through this process of being in what they called the realignment and detention center, but euphemistically called the fortress.
Very, very
And
cool.
I should back up and say the book cover actually kind of captured it. When you're out in the Mojave Desert, you see some of these volcanic mountains, and it's just so easy to pick one of those and imagine putting this experimental prison behind it.
Yeah.
But so he gets out of this prison, and he wakes up. He wakes up in his bed in his home. And that's surprising in and of itself. But then he's told, even by his loving parents, that that he was just in an accident-induced coma for the past 6 months, not incarcerated.
Wow.
And Jake can't process that. He refuses to accept that. And he sets off on a dangerous path to prove that the fortress was real, and that his newfound love, Karen Williams, was also real. And that's, I think, the gist.
Well, that's an awesome pitch. I think you got the audience hooked, no doubt. And it's very cool. It's very unique. It's very real. It's also very original. It's such an original story. I like that. The idea of a futuristic co-ed prison rather, makes prison seem not that bad if it's co-ed for some reason. It's just, you can imagine the hijinks that would be taking place in prison if they were co-ed. Wow. But it's great. It's very real. It's very believable. Did real world politics or technology influence the creation of this story at all?
Thank you for that question. So let me back up just a tiny bit. So let me pick up on the NIMBYism. So I was living in the greater Los Angeles area in the late 80s and 90s. And the Los Angeles Times ran one, maybe more articles on NIMBYism. People that would get together saying, I don't want this train or this new housing development or whatever in my neighborhood or near my neighborhood. Well, prisons became part of that NIMBYism as well. And so that was really my primary inspiration. It's like, okay, the interesting thing about this time was in California at that moment, there was a real get tough on crime sentiment in the public. So much so that that was really kind of the groundswell, the moment where the California's 3 strikes rule came into effect. So that went through, I think, a process in 1994 when it went into effect. And just to put a finer point on that, so the 3 strikes rule is you have your third felony. It doesn't make a difference how tame that was. It's a minimum 25 years sentence. So obviously you have more people that are going to be stuck in prison, and you're going to have more prisons. And that was part of where I think the dialogue was coming from. But I pulled a couple other threads that really intrigued me that I tried to sort of work into this story and into this experimental prison, which was prisons are scary. I don't know about you, but it scares the bejeebers out of me to think about going into jail. And it got me thinking, why is that designed that way? I mean, I get people need to serve their time, but why are they? So I was looking up stats at the time and now too. And there's different studies out there that show anywhere between 21 and 35% are physically accosted within their first 6 months of incarceration. And any form of sexual encounter, sexual abuse, it's 4.5%, but they think that's really undercounted too.
Sure.
it just blows me away that that is a dynamic. You know, it plays out in movies and books, and you think how real is it? But I think it is. The stats would say it's real.
Yeah.
And then you have the inefficiency, Logan, where you look at all the other countries in the world, and we tend to incarcerate individuals much longer. We don't have the longest, but most of the countries we beat. They're in there longer, and it's more expensive. And then you come out, you have minimal job skills. You have this prison record that follows you, that makes it very difficult to thrive on the outside. And this last stat is what created the final milieu for me. 44%, there's 44% recidivism. Almost half of the people within 1 year are back in prison. What does that say about what we're doing with this design? So I just thought, wouldn't it be a potentially great story to somehow bring that all together into this concept of an experimental prison out somewhere in the middle of Mojave Desert that maybe touches on some of these items. I'm not saying it's the panacea. I obviously pulled some levers that you probably would never see in a prison just to make the story interesting. But there's some parts in there that probably make sense. So anyway, that was really the inspiration for the story.
Fascinating. I'm also very intrigued by this subculture of people in prison. I mean, look at Brian Koberger. Have you seen the video of him recently? He's the
I
guy who
have.
killed the four co-eds
Oh,
in
yeah,
like wherever it was, Idaho.
right,
And they released a video of him that somebody illegally took, and he's just standing in what's basically a cage with his hands raw from washing them constantly because he has some kind of OCD. And there's a toilet there. It's just like it's an absolute hell. I mean, I've been in jails, covering them as a news reporter and so forth, and it's frightening to be among a population that
right,
everybody's cuffed and told what to do constantly.
right.
So your reimagining of prison is absolutely fascinating, and you've done a great job with the characters as well. Where do you envision this series going? You've already working on the second book, and the second book's completed. Tell us a little bit about your vision going forward.
Sure. The second book is completed. I just finished it actually this past week. So it's going to go through proofing. I've got a few individuals that I want to have a chance to go through it just to, make sure there's no misspelled words and stuff like that.
Yeah,
You get so familiar with your work that your brain just skips over words that probably should be fixed, right? So,
yeah.
but anyway, it's done. And the concept around this next one is it carries about half of the characters from the Fortress forward. Um, Introduces a new character. I think she is a very interesting character. The
Mhm.
overall concept is so Jake and uh, two individuals that he came to know in the fortress through the fortress book, they form a small security and investigative firm.
Mm.
And their company's reputation gets a huge boost because they were able to acquire this unique AI software called Oracle. Oracle's the name of the book. And they acquired the inventor of this software as well.
Awesome. Awesome.
And this software is able to basically scrape any data, live news feeds, data feeds, government feeds, and it's able to help sort of connect the dots on past crimes that are unsolved, but also to help uh, identify where potential future crime could be happening. And in this particular case, the government, all the intelligence agencies are hugely interested in this. And oh, by the way, so is SecTech, which was in the Fortress. SecTech was the Fortress's company owner. They were the large security defense firm I was talking about. They also wanted access to this because there has been this impending plot that they know is coming, a terrorist plot that is supposed to be magnitudes greater than 9/11. So the government wants access to Oracle, and SecTech and their CEO in particular, Eric Hunt, which is became Jake's nemesis, he wants it. They both want it for that reason, but Eric Hunt wants it for more reasons than that, and that unfolds in the book too.
Awesome.
So you've got that, and they take questionable paths to get access to it. Eric Hunt deploys this just incredibly bright and resourceful and skillful uh, individual, Ali Duchenko. And she's got a very interesting backstory. I enjoyed writing her backstory. She probably has more backstory than some of the other characters, even in the Fortress. But before long, Jake and his wife, Karen Williams, they find themselves in the crosshairs of the government, of of terrorists, of Ali and Jake's nemesis, Eric Hunt, the CEO of Secta. That's the overall arching piece.
Oh, that sounds fascinating as well. And I love the AI element as well because it's so timely and it's really, I think, capturing people's imagination as to what good or evil AI can be used for. And the Oracle sounds terrific. The book that we've been focusing on primarily today is called The Fortress, the first Jake Goldman novel. It is a suspenseful story of love, danger, resilience, and prison reimagined. Dan, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time, your insight, and your great creativity. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford for the Global Book Network. So long for now.